Okay, this podcast for CNT140. We're going to try to walk you through the process of putting a connector on the end of a piece of multi-mode fiber in this case. So we're going to use a Fuse Connect fiber optic connector, LC fiber optic connector, to go onto the end of a piece of multi-mode fiber. Now, first thing we need to do is we're going to get a couple of our tools out and ready for what we're doing. I have my Fusion Splicer out. It's plugged in, ready to go. Okay, I'm going to slide him to the back for now, just so we have a little bit of room under the camera. I'll slide it up when we're ready. I have my connectors. I'm leaving the connector in the tray for now. I will pull out that last piece when I'm ready. I do have some of the connector body parts ready. I will need them first. I have my cleaver, and it's actually ready to roll. I have the tray in, if you will. I should say the part that controls the blade, that's pushed in and ready, and the cleaving mechanism is ready to go, so I have that ready. I have the sled that I'm going to put my fiber in, that I'm going to use in the cleaver and in the Fusion Splicer. It's here and ready to go. I have my jacket stripper, and I have my marker, and I also have my cleaner, my fiber cleaner, and my fiber wipes. So I have all my stuff ready, including my fiber ready to roll. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to, I did this earlier, I did one end already earlier. I put a Fusion Splice an end on here. We're going to do the same thing on this guy here. We're going to put a Fuse Connect splicer on this guy as well. On this strand here. This is a piece of multi-mode fiber. So what I need to do is I'm going to first start off on the box of connectors that you get, the little tray of connectors. There's a little dimensions guide here on how much of the insulation you need to strip off, how much of the jacket you need to strip off to Fuse Connect this on. So I'm going to get my measurement here and mark my jacket so I know how much of the insulation I'm stripping off. I'm going to slide my marker out of the way. I don't need him anymore. I'm going to slide the tray out of the way. I'll come back to that in a little bit. Before I go any further, oh, there he is. Okay. Before I do any kind of stripping of the jacket or anything off of here, I need to make sure I put the body parts for the connector, these here, these back body parts on first. Because once I strip insulation and everything off, I can't, or a Fusion Splice, which I've done that a couple times. I Fusion Splice it all, then realize I have to put the connector parts on, and it's just like, oh no. So I need to put the rubber boot, if you will, first, and then there's a little clear tube that's going to go on next. This is the spline that's going to get to reinforce the Fusion Splice when you're done. That's what the spline is, if you will. So I'm going to put these guys on here so they are ready to use. Now I can actually strip off my jacket here, strip off the jacket here, do my cleaving, do my splicing. Okay, so next thing I need to do is I need to use my my jacket strippers right here. If I look at these, or when I look at these up close, I'll see that there's 3 notches. See if we can put it here. Here we go. There's 3 notches. The largest one is for stripping off the outer jacket, this outer jacket here. The middle one is for stripping off this jacket. And then the smallest one is for actually taking off the cladding on the fiber, which we don't need. We're not going to use that one. So we're going to use the middle notch, and I'm not going to put it around the fiber and do all of it in one shot. I'm actually going to do a couple little pieces until I get to that point there. And when I put the stripper around, I'm going to clamp around, and I'm not going to go straight up and down. I'm actually going to tilt it at about a 45-degree angle and pull the pieces off. Okay, so let me see if I can show you doing this under the camera here. I'm going to go around the fiber, middle notch, about a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to pull my jacket piece off, one little piece at a time here. I'll do it probably about 3 times is what you usually need to get the job done. So there's 1, 2, there's 3. That should get the last piece off. Now I have the jacket pieces stripped off. I'm going to put those in the trash. I'm going to lay my stripper aside. I don't need that anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my fiber here. You probably can't see it. Maybe if I lay it over some black, you might see it glitter a little bit. Okay, I'm going to clean that off. So I'm going to grab one of my lint-free wipes here. I'm going to get a little of my cleaning solution on. This is just really pure rubbing alcohol, if you will. I'm going to carefully lay the fiber into the wipe. I'm going to pinch the fiber, and I'm going to pull the fiber through the wipe. So I'm actually taking my left hand in this case and pulling the fiber through the wipe. And I'm going to pull it through, turn the fiber about 90 degrees, and do it again. So I'm trying to get it super clear, and you might even hear a little slight squeak when I do it. I'm trying to get it squeaky clean. I'll lay my wipe aside. I now need to be very careful. Do not touch the fiber. I don't want oils in there, and I don't want to damage the fiber in any way. I'm now going to take and load the fiber into my little magnetic sled here. This little magnetic sled I'll use in my cleaver, and then I'll use on my splicer. So once I load it in here, I won't have to mess with this anymore, mess with the lining up the fiber, so to speak. So I'm going to lay it in the sled. There's a groove down the middle. I'm going to lay the jacket into that groove, and then I'm going to slide it back so that the jacket comes to the very edge of the sled. You'll see it come to the very edge of the sled there. I'll then close these little magnetic arms, if you will, over top of the sled. And now the fiber is in the sled, and I don't have to worry about trying to line it up anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load it into my cleaver here. On the left side over here, there's a little tray to accept this sled. I'm going to carefully slide it in. I want to be careful not to bump the fiber on anything. So I'm going to slide it in the left side over here. Gentle, gentle. There we go. It's in the left side of my cleaver over here. I'm now going to carefully, oh, come on now. There we go. I'm now going to carefully push my cleaver down, and what the cleaver is going to do is there's actually a little blade underneath the bottom down here. Almost reminds me of like a little pizza cutter. It's going to carefully come up and nick the bottom of the fiber and cause the fiber to break, if you will, and then the right side of my cleaver is going to pull that scrap stub of fiber over into a little bin over here. So I'm going to operate this almost like a stapler. I'm going to push it down, and I'll hear it clicking down there. That nicked the fiber, and when I let go, it pulled the scrap over into this bin on the right side over here. I now have my fiber cleaved, nice clean termination end here. I can now load this into my fusion splicer. So I'm going to carefully set my cleaver to the side. Let me slide the fusion splicer down now so you can see that a little bit better. There we go. I'll even pull this part up here so you can see what's going on with the little screen. I'm now going to load my fiber into the left side over here. Now, it has to go into, the sled's going to go over these two little pins here, and the fiber itself is going to line up into the middle. If you look by my finger, now don't go touching anything in here, but you'll see the little brass, little silver electrodes coming in from top and bottom. Those are the actual electrodes that create an electric arc to melt this glass and melt the other glass here so they're fused together. I need to get my fiber in there, and the sled's going to get it in far enough, and you'll see that there's almost like a little blue tray that my fiber needs to lay into, and there's a little notch in there. The fiber needs to lay into that notch. So I'm going to carefully lay this in, and I'm sorry if I'm going to get my head in the way, but I need to lean in here and make sure everything gets lined up okay. I'm going to lay my sled into here, and the fiber into that little notch in there. Okay, hopefully I got my head out of the way now. There we go. So there is my sled loading the fiber in, ready to go. This side's ready, and you even notice the light is on indicating, hey, it's ready to go. You may or may not see that well, I don't know. There you go, now you see him. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the right side over here. Well, the right side is the actual connector body. When you buy these connectors, they actually come in their own little sled, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to carefully pull this one out, and it's already loaded into a sled here. I'm going to carefully do the same thing on this side. When I do this, I need to do it carefully and kind of get out of the way, because once it's in place, two little windshields are going to come up and protect the fiber splicing area. So I'm going to load this guy in, same way as I did the other one. Get my fingers out of the way. I'm going to let this go do its splice. It's actually now creating an arc in there, and it's actually melting the two ends of those fibers and kind of melting them together, for lack of a better term. It's now fusion splicing them. Okay, so it's now coming up with, hey, there we go, remove the fiber, we're good to go. So I'm now going to carefully remove the fiber. I'm going to slide the little splice over top, the little spline shield, if you will, and then I'm going to put it in the back here. That's going to be a heater that's going to heat shrink that spline around the fusion splice. So I'm going to carefully pop open this sled. I'm going to carefully pop open this sled. Be real gentle at this point. Oop, get back in there. There's my fusion splice. I'm going to carefully slide this plastic splice shield over top, all the way over top of this splice. I'm going to take it in the back of the fusion splicer back here. I'm going to slide it down in between the yellow lines. As I pull it down in, there's a little sensor in there that senses when it's in far enough. It's going to close around and it's going to heat shrink that little spline, or that splice shield, if you will, over top. And that splice shield is actually like a plastic tube, a heat shrink tube, and in the bottom of it there's a little metal bar. So it's heat shrinking it, and the metal bar is adding the rigidity that's needed. So there is my fusion splice for my connector. Now I just need to assemble the connector. So I'm now going to slide up the back part of my connector back here, the rubber boot part. I'm going to slide that up over top of the splice, and then there's a little metal collar there. I'll need to slide the metal collar into the connector body. I'll pull this rubber end off, this is a rubber protective end. I'll now slide the tan LC connector part up over the connector body and click it in place. You'll hear it click in place. And there is my LC fiber fuse-on connector termination. Yahoo! As you can see though, that's a bit of a process. Much easier than older forms of termination, fiber termination, much easier, but it's still a bit of a process. It is very technical. You have to be very gentle, be very careful, kind of some finesse in this one to do this. But there is your fiber fuse-on connector.